This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer coming to you tonight from Fox News World headquarters in New York. This is the second hour of our expanded special report, the last one before a new show Monday at 5 p.m. The Fox News Alert that we've been covering over the past hour or so. Two U.S. officials confirming to Fox that North Korea test launched a ballistic missile a short time ago. This comes as President Trump warns of a possible major conflict, and the president's top diplomat, the Secretary of State, urging the United Nations to ratchet up the pressure on the communist state. Correspondent Rich Edson is breaking down the breaking news from the State Department tonight. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening, Brett. And this is only a few hours after the United Nations Security Council meets to confront North Korea. North Korea answers with this launch into the Sea of Japan. Two U.S. officials say it happened about 90 minutes ago. Officials believe it is a former Scud missile that is designed to one day target ships. It flew about 25 miles at about 15 minutes. One U.S. official says the launch was unsuccessful, as it appears as though it broke up mid-flight. Pacific Command, according to officials, is still evaluating this launch. All of this is punctuating that the United States is still far from solving North Korean aggression. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un supervises a combined fire demonstration of the Korean People's Army. This is according to North Korean state television. It also says this is the largest ever exercise of North Korea's combined army forces. It is this behavior and this continued nuclear tests, imprisoning Americans, and threats against the United States that has brought the most powerful countries in the world to a special meeting of the United Nations Security Council. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is chairing it.
Failing to act now on the most pressing security issue in the world may bring catastrophic consequences. I urge this council to act before North Korea does.
Tillerson's strategy: nations should fully implement existing United Nations sanctions, downgrade their diplomatic relations with North Korea, and cut economic relations. The Secretary of State then singled out China. It accounts for 90% of North Korea's trade.
China alone has economic leverage over Pyongyang that is unique, and its role is therefore particularly important. The U.S. and China have held very productive exchanges on this issue, and we look forward to further actions that build on what China has already done.
China is not a focal point of the problem on the peninsula, and the key to solving the nuclear issue on the peninsula does not lie in the hands of the Chinese side. Under the current circumstances, China is still prepared to work with all parties to make new contributions to the resolution of the nuclear issue on the peninsula.
China also wants the U.S. to halt its military exercises with South Korea and suspend the deployment of a U.S. missile defense system in South Korea in exchange for North Korea surrendering its nuclear and missile programs. The U.S. has rejected that deal, arguing its military exercises and missile systems are defensive, whereas North Korea is threatening the region and the world. Senior U.S. officials say they're waiting to see if China's actions will soon match its rhetoric. The State Department says within the coming months, it wants to see North Korea curb its aggression.
How long is the U.S. willing to wait?
Well, we've got to see a real change on the part of the posture of the regime in North Korea. Now, how do we see that? Well, we'll wait as long as it takes, as long as the threat is manageable.
Tillerson says the U.S. is willing to resume negotiations and aid payments to North Korea if it surrenders its nuclear program, though that appears a long way off. As President Trump told Reuters, quote, "There is a chance that we could end up having a major conflict with North Korea. Absolutely."
Everything that President Trump says about North Korea is directed both to Beijing and Pyongyang. But I think this message was specially intended for the UN Security Council.
And, he says, for countries to meet commitments to further isolate North Korea diplomatically and economically. As for the probability of war on the Korean Peninsula,
the situation on the Korean Peninsula is inherently volatile and unstable. So there always is a potential for war. Now I think it's more because you have a regime in Pyongyang that I believe has a pretty low threshold of risk because of all the evidence of instability we've seen since the end of January.
While the Secretary of State promises the era of strategic patience with North Korea is over, the administration now waits to see if China follows through on its promises or North Korea reverses course. Outcomes, the State Department admits, are uncertain. Brett?
Rich Edson live at the State Department with breaking news tonight. Rich, thank you.